In the heart of Brooklyn, where old brick buildings stand like silent witnesses to time, a man lingered outside a weathered church. His clothes were torn, a ragged jacket hanging loosely over his shoulders, and his face was smeared with charcoal, darkening his skin to match the shadows of the streets. To anyone passing by, he was just another soul lost to the city's underbelly, a figure to be ignored or pitied from a distance. But beneath the grime and the tattered disguise was Nathan Brooks, a young billionaire from New York, heir to the vast Brooks Industries empire. He stood there not out of necessity, but by choice, his sharp green eyes scanning the crowd with a quiet hope that belied his appearance. Nathan had grown up in a world of wealth, surrounded by penthouses that touched the clouds and parties where champagne flowed like rivers. Yet, despite the luxury, his heart felt empty, a hollow space that no amount of money could fill. He had seen the way people looked at him, their smiles bright but shallow, their words dripping with flattery meant to win his favor or his fortune. "I have lived among glittering lights and painted faces," he thought, "but I am alone. I want someone to love me for me, not for the zeros in my bank account or the name I carry." That longing had driven him to this, to shed his tailored suits and step into the life of a beggar, searching for a love that money could not buy. At 30 years old, Nathan was the eldest grandson of the Brooks family, poised to take over as chairman of the company his grandfather had built from nothing. The boardroom awaited him, a throne of power and responsibility, but he had turned away from it. His father, his uncles, even his grandmother had urged him to embrace his destiny, to marry one of the polished women from their elite circles. They paraded them before him at galas and blind dates, each one more beautiful than the last, each one eager to claim a piece of his legacy. But Nathan saw through them. "They do not want me," he mused bitterly. "They want the Brooks name, the Brooks wealth. They want to climb higher, using me as their ladder." So he had made a decision that shocked his family and baffled his closest friend. He traded his silk ties for a threadbare shirt, his leather shoes for cracked boots, and his pristine penthouse for the cold streets of New York. His disguise was meticulous, every detail crafted to hide the man he truly was. The charcoal on his face masked his chiseled features, and the slump in his shoulders hid the confidence of a man born to lead. He carried no wallet, no phone, just a small bag with a few crumpled dollars to keep up the act. "Why am I doing this?" he asked himself as he stood by the church, the wind tugging at his worn jacket. "Because I need to know. I need to find her, the one who will see past this dirt and these rags, the one who will look into my eyes and stay." His grandmother had called him foolish, his father had called him reckless, but Nathan did not care. He had spent too long in a gilded cage, surrounded by people who loved his wealth more than they could ever love him. Now he was free, or as free as a man could be while pretending to be something he was not. The church bells rang softly, their sound mingling with the hum of the city. Nathan adjusted the cap on his head, a faded thing he had found in a thrift shop, and let his gaze drift over the faces rushing past. Businessmen in suits, mothers with strollers, teenagers laughing into their phones. None of them spared him a glance. He was invisible to them, a ghost in plain sight. But he was not discouraged. Somewhere out there, he believed, was a woman who would stop, who would see him, who would prove that love could exist beyond the trappings of wealth. And so he waited day after day, his heart a quiet ember burning beneath the ashes of his disguise. He had tried other places, the bustling markets of Lower Manhattan, the green expanse of Central Park, but here, by this old Brooklyn church, he felt a strange pull. Maybe it was the history in its stones, or the way the light fell through the stained glass, casting colors onto the pavement. Or maybe it was fate, whispering that his search was nearing its end. Whatever it was, Nathan Brooks stood firm, a billionaire in beggar's clothes, ready to rewrite his story with the one person who could change everything. Nathan Brooks had always known New York was a city of contrasts, a place where skyscrapers kissed the sky while shadows hid the forgotten. Now, as he wandered its streets in his beggar's disguise, He felt those contrasts more deeply than ever. He moved through the crowded sidewalks of Manhattan, past gleaming storefronts and hurried footsteps, his ragged jacket brushing against the edges of a world he once ruled. No one stopped. No one looked. I thought kindness was a light, he reflected, but why do I only see darkness in their eyes? The thought weighed on him, a quiet ache that grew with each day he spent unseen. He tried different corners of the city, hoping for a spark of connection. In Lower Manhattan, he stood by a bustling market, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread and roasted coffee. Shoppers haggled over prices, their voices loud and lively, but their glances slid past him as if he were a stain on the pavement. He held out a trembling hand once, testing the waters, and a woman in a sharp blazer dropped a quarter into it without breaking stride. 25 cents, he thought bitterly. That is what they think I am worth. He pocketed the coin, not for need, but to keep up the act, his pride stinging beneath the grime. Next, he went to Central Park, where the trees stretched high and the grass offered a rare softness amid the concrete jungle. He sat on a bench, watching couples stroll hand in hand, their laughter floating like music. Surely here, he told himself, someone will notice, someone will care. But the couples kept walking, their eyes locked on each other, and the joggers sped by with earbuds drowning out the world. A child once paused, tugging at his mother's sleeve to point at Nathan, but she hushed him quickly. "Do not look," she whispered, pulling the boy away. Nathan smiled faintly, though his chest tightened. Even innocence learns to turn away. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of his experiment pressed harder. He had not expected this, the way invisibility could seep into your bones, making you question your own existence. Back in his old life, people had clamored for his attention, their voices eager, their hands outstretched for a handshake or a deal. Now those same hands avoided him, curling into pockets or clutching purses tighter as they passed. I wanted to find her, he thought, the one who would see me. But what if she does not exist? The doubt crept in, cold and persistent, threatening to snuff out the ember of hope he carried. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the Hudson River, Nathan returned to his penthouse in secret. He slipped through a private entrance, avoiding the doorman's curious gaze, and shed his disguise in the dim light of his bedroom. The mirror reflected a stranger, a man with charcoal-streaked cheeks and tired eyes, so different from the polished figure he once was. His best friend Ryan found him there, leaning against the wall with a frown. "Nathan, why are you doing this?" Ryan asked, his voice a mix of concern and disbelief. "You could be at one of your grandmother's parties right now, meeting some gorgeous woman who would love you." Nathan turned, his gaze steady. "I do not want to meet them, Ryan. Those women, they are all the same. Beautiful, yes, poised and perfect, but they do not want me. They want the Brooks name, the Brooks wealth. They want to climb higher, and I am just their ladder." He paused, running a hand through his matted hair. "I need something real, something that cannot be bought." Ryan sighed, shaking his head. "You are chasing a dream, man. What if you never find her? What if this whole thing is just you punishing yourself?" Nathan looked away, out at the city skyline glittering beyond the glass. "Then at least I will know," he said softly. "At least I will have tried." Ryan left him there, and Nathan stood alone, the silence of his penthouse pressing in. He could return to that life, slip back into his suits in his boardroom throne, but the thought made his stomach twist. "No," he resolved, "I am not done yet." The next morning, he donned his disguise again, the familiar weight of the ragged clothes settling over him like a second skin. He decided to try a new place, somewhere different, somewhere that might hold the answer he sought. That place was the Sterling Heights, a grand hotel in Midtown Manhattan, where the elite gathered to sip cocktails and seal deals. Nathan had been there before, in his old life, a king among princes, but now he approached it as a shadow. He stationed himself near the entrance, just out of reach of the valets in their crisp uniforms, and watched the glass doors swing open and shut. Men in tuxedos and women in glittering gowns flowed in and out, their laughter sharp against the hum of traffic. He blended into the background, a smudge of dirt against the hotel's gleaming facade, but his eyes were sharp, searching. Something told him to stay. Maybe it was the elegance of the building, a stark contrast to his own appearance, or maybe it was a whisper of instinct he could not name. He adjusted his cap, pulling it low over his brow, and settled in to wait. The city pulsed around him, alive and indifferent, but Nathan felt a shift in the air, a quiet promise that his journey was about to change. He did not know it yet, but inside those glass doors, a woman was working, a woman who would soon step into his life and turn his world upside down. Her name was Clara Evans, and she was everything he had been searching for, even if he did not realize it yet. Nathan Brooke stood by the polished entrance of the Sterling Heights, the grand hotel rising like a beacon in midtown Manhattan. The evening air buzzed with the chatter of guests, their expensive perfumes mingling with the faint hum of taxi engines. He tugged his faded cap lower, blending into the dusk as valets in crisp uniforms ushered wealthy patrons through the glass doors. He had been here before, years ago, in a tailored tuxedo, shaking hands with men who measured worth in stock portfolios. Now he was a ghost, unnoticed by the same world that once bowed to him. Yet something kept him rooted there, a quiet pull he could not explain. Inside the hotel, Clara Evans moved with purpose. At 28, she was the manager of the Sterling Heights, a woman whose strength shone brighter than the chandeliers overhead. She had grown up in the Upper East Side, daughter of James Evans, a real estate tycoon whose name adorned half the city's skyline. But Clara had carved her own path, leaving behind the family mansion after her mother's death left a void no wealth could fill. Her father had remarried to Diane, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper ambitions, and Clara became a stranger in her own home, overshadowed by step-siblings who thrived on privilege. I do not need their world, she often thought. I want to stand on my own, to matter for what I do, not who I was born to be. That night, as Nathan lingered outside, Clara stood in the lobby, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun, her navy blazer crisp against her frame. A commotion broke her focus, a wealthy guest in a sequined gown berating a young bellhop over a spilled drink. The woman's voice cut through the air, shrill and unforgiving. "Look at this mess," she snapped. "This dress costs more than your miserable life. Do you know who I am?" The bellhop, barely 20, stammered apologies, his face flushed with shame. Clara stepped forward, her presence calm but unyielding. "Excuse me," she said, her tone steady. "No one has the right to measure a person's worth by a piece of fabric." Nathan, hovering near the entrance, caught every word. He had edged closer, pretending to pick up a discarded flyer from the sidewalk, his heart quickening as he watched. The guest turned on Clara, her voice rising. "How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know what this gown is worth?" Clara did not flinch. "I heard you," she replied, "and I am telling you, no court, no law, no human decency would agree that a dress outweighs a life. The bellhop spilled your drink, yes, but you have spilled your dignity all over this lobby." Nathan froze, his breath catching. She was small, but she stood like a mountain, he thought. "I have never seen anyone so beautiful, not in all my years of wealth or want." The guest huffed, speechless for once, then stormed off, her heels clicking furiously against the marble floor. Clara turned to the bellhop, her voice softening. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded, still shaken, and murmured a quiet thank you before scurrying away. Nathan watched her from his shadowed spot, a strange warmth spreading through him. She did not bow to wealth, did not bend to cruelty. She was different, a flame in a world of ice. "I need to know her," he decided. "I need to know who she is." Later that night, back in his penthouse, Nathan called Ryan. "Find out about the manager at the Sterling Heights," he said, his voice low but urgent. Ryan groaned. "You are obsessed, man. What is it this time?" "Just do it," Nathan replied, ending the call before Ryan could argue. By morning, Ryan delivered the details. "Her name is Clara Evans," he said, "oldest daughter of James Evans, the property king. Her mom passed when she was a kid, and her dad remarried. She is practically an outcast now, works her way up at that hotel, lives alone in Brooklyn, does not touch the family money." Nathan listened, his mind racing. She is free, he thought. Free in a way I never was. Days later, Nathan found her again, this time at a bus stop near the hotel. The sky was gray, heavy with the promise of rain, and Clara stood under the shelter, a simple coat draped over her shoulders. She rode the bus, he realized, despite her family's wealth, a detail that made his chest tighten with admiration. He approached, his steps hesitant, his beggar's disguise intact. A crowd lingered nearby, and as he passed, a man shoved him hard. "Get out of here, you filth," the man barked. Nathan stumbled, catching himself against a pole, and the crowd laughed, their voices sharp. He straightened, keeping his head low. "I am not here to fight," he said quietly. "I just need a little help." The man raised a fist, but before it could land, a voice cut through the noise. "Stop it," Clara said, stepping between them, her eyes blazing. "What are you doing? He is just asking for help," the man sneered. "What is he to you? Your charity case?" Clara glared back. "He is a person," she said, "and you are the ones who should be ashamed, not him." The man muttered something crude and walked off, the crowd dispersing as rain began to fall. Clara turned to Nathan, her expression softening. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded, his throat tight. "I am fine," he managed. "Thank you." She studied him for a moment, then reached into her bag. "I do not have cash," she said, pulling out a sandwich wrapped in foil. "This is my lunch, but you can have it. And here," she added, handing him her umbrella, "take this too, but I want it back. I mean it." Her seriousness almost made him smile, but he kept his face still, taking the sandwich and umbrella with a murmured thanks. "I will be here later," she said. "Around 7. Wait for me, okay? I will bring you something more." He nodded again, watching as she boarded her bus, her figure disappearing into the rain. Nathan stood there, the sandwich warm in his hands, the umbrella shielding him from the downpour. She saw me, he thought, his heart pounding. Not the dirt, not the rags, but me. He unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite, savoring it not just for the taste, but for what it meant. It was hers, made by her hands, given without hesitation. For the first time in weeks, the weight of his disguise felt lighter, replaced by a flicker of something new, something that felt dangerously like hope. Clara Evans had stepped into his life, and Nathan knew, deep in his bones, that he would never be the same. Nathan Brooks found himself drawn to the bus stop near the Sterling Heights every day after that first encounter. The rain had stopped, but Clara's umbrella stayed with him, a quiet reminder of her kindness. He returned it that evening as promised, waiting under the shelter until she stepped off the bus at 7, her coat damp from a long shift. She smiled when she saw him, a small, genuine curve of her lips that lit up the gray brook. "You kept your word," she said, taking the umbrella back. "I brought you something, too." She handed him a paper bag with a warm roll and a few dollars folded inside. "It is not much," she added, "but it is what I have." Nathan took it, his fingers brushing hers, and murmured a thank you, his voice softer than he intended. From then on, he became a fixture in her routine. He waited by the bus stop each morning, watching her rush toward it with her coat flapping behind her, and again in the evenings when she returned. They talked, at first in short bursts about the weather or the city's endless noise, but soon their conversations grew longer, weaving through small details of their days. She told him about rude guests at the hotel, her voice sharp with frustration, and he listened, nodding as if he understood the weight of her world. "I do not care what they think," she said one day, her breath visible in the cold air. "You are real, Nathan. That is more than I can say for most people I meet." Her words settled into him like a melody he could not forget. Each time she spoke his name, it felt new, untainted by the wealth he hid. Her smile is like sunlight in winter, he thought, watching her laugh at some small joke he made about the pigeons crowding the sidewalk. But I am afraid. If she knew I am not this man she sees, would that smile still be mine? The fear gnawed at him, a shadow over the warmth he felt in her presence. He wanted to tell her, to peel back the layers of his disguise, but every time he opened his mouth, the words died. "Not yet," he told himself. I need more time with her. Just like this. Clara seemed to sense none of his turmoil. She treated him as an equal, never looking down at his tattered clothes or the dirt he rubbed into his skin each day. At the hotel, her co-workers noticed him too, their whispers trailing behind her when she stopped to greet him at the entrance. One afternoon, a receptionist smirked as Clara waved him over. "Why do you bother with that guy?" the woman asked, her tone dripping with disdain. "He is just some bum." Clara turned, her eyes narrowing. "He is nice," she said simply. "That is enough for me." Nathan caught her gaze then, and she smiled at him, unbothered by the judgment around her. The whispers grew louder over time, especially when Clara started walking with him partway home after her shifts. Her co-workers stared, some hiding smirks, others openly frowning. One evening, a security guard approached Nathan as he lingered near the lobby doors. "Hey, you," the guard growled. "Get out of here. Bums do not belong inside." Nathan raised his hands, keeping his voice calm. "I am just waiting for someone. I will not cause trouble." But the guard shoved him, hard enough to make him stumble, and a second guard joined in. "We said move," one barked. "You will scare the guests." Clara appeared then, her footsteps quick against the marble floor. "What are you doing?" she demanded, pushing between Nathan and the guards. "Why are you treating him like this?" The first guard scowled. "He is making a scene, ma'am. We cannot have people like him here." Clara's voice rose, steady but fierce. "I saw what happened. He was not doing anything wrong. Is it against some rule for him to wait by the door? I cannot stand this way you judge people for how they look." She turned to Nathan, her hand on his arm. "Are you okay?" He nodded, his chest tight with something he could not name. "I am fine," he said. "Thanks to you." She glared at the guards until they backed off, muttering apologies under their breath. "Starting now," she said, "I do not want to see this again. There is no policy that bans him from being here. If you cannot show kindness, you do not deserve to work under me." The guard slunk away, and Clara led Nathan to a bench outside, her touch lingering on his sleeve. "I am sorry," she said softly. "You should not have to deal with that." He looked at her, her face close enough to see the faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes. "You do not have to apologize," he replied. "You make it better." That night, a storm swept through Brooklyn, the wind howling against the buildings. Nathan waited at the bus stop as usual, the rain soaking through his thin jacket. Clara stepped off the bus, her umbrella snapping in the gusts, and saw him there, drenched and shivering. "Come with me," she said, her voice cutting through the downpour. "You cannot stay out here." He hesitated, but she grabbed his hand, pulling him along the slick streets to her small apartment a few blocks away. Inside, she handed him a towel and pointed to the bathroom. "Go clean up," she said. "I will make us something warm." Nathan stood under the hot water, washing away the charcoal and the day's weight, the steam clouding his reflection in the mirror. "This is not my life," he thought. "But with her, it feels like it could be." When he emerged, Clara had set out 2 bowls of soup on a scratched wooden table. "It is not much," she said, sitting across from him. "I meant to shop, but work got crazy." He took a spoonful, the warmth spreading through him. "It is perfect," he said. "I am just a beggar. You do not need to do this for me." She frowned, setting her spoon down with a clink. "Stop that," she said. "Saying just a beggar makes it sound like you are less. You are not less to me." Her words hit him like a wave, stripping away the walls he had built around his secret. He stared at her, the flickering light of a candle on the table casting shadows across her face. "She is not like anyone I have ever known," he thought. "She sees me, really sees me, and I am terrified of losing that." They ate in silence for a while, the storm raging outside, and when they finished, Clara led him to a tiny balcony. She pointed to a distant building, its lights piercing the rain. "That is my dad's company," she said. "I could have worked there, but I chose this instead. I want a life that is mine." Nathan nodded, leaning against the railing beside her. "I get that," he said. "More than you know." She turned to him, her eyes searching his. "You are a mystery, Nathan," she said with a small smile, "but I like that about you." He swallowed hard, the truth pressing against his lips, but he held it back. Not yet, he thought again. Let me have this a little longer. In that moment, with the rain drumming around them and Clara's warmth beside him, Nathan felt something bloom inside him, a bond growing stronger with every word, every glance, every second they shared. Nathan Brooks could no longer deny it. The hours he spent with Clara Evans had woven themselves into his heart, a thread of warmth he had not felt in all his years of wealth. Each morning at the bus stop, each evening by her side, deep in the pull he felt toward her, she had become his anchor, a steady light in the chaos of his disguise. I love her, he thought one crisp afternoon, watching her adjust her coat against the Brooklyn wind. I love her more than anything, but I am a liar. If she knew, would she forgive me, or would she walk away? The question haunted him, a shadow he could not shake. He wanted to tell her, to shed the beggar's rags and stand before her as Nathan Brooks, the man he truly was. But every time he rehearsed the words, his courage faltered. She looked at him with such trust, her brown eyes soft and unguarded, and he feared the truth would shatter that. Not yet, he told himself again, clutching the role she had given him that morning. I need her to love me like this a little longer, as the man she met, not the one I hid. He carried her gifts, the small meals and spare dollars, not because he needed them, but because they were pieces of her he could hold on to. Clara seemed oblivious to his inner storm. She treated him with a quiet ease, sharing stories of her day as they walked the streets near her apartment. But trouble was brewing beyond their stolen moments. Her family, led by her father James Evans and her stepmother Diane, had grown restless. Clara's independence, her refusal to bend to their expectations, had long been a thorn in their side. One evening, as Nathan waited outside the Sterling Heights, he overheard a tense exchange. Clara's younger half-sister Megan stood in the lobby with Diane, their voices sharp. "You need to stop this," Megan said. "People are talking about you and that beggar. It is embarrassing us." Clara faced them, her posture rigid. "I do not care what people say," she replied. "He is my friend, and he is worth more than your gossip." Diane stepped closer, her tone icy. "You are a fool, Clara. We have plans for you, a marriage to secure our name. You cannot keep wasting time with trash like him." Nathan's stomach twisted as he listened from the shadows, his hands clenched. "Plans for her?" he thought. "They want to take her away from me." Clara's voice rose, cutting through his fears. "I would rather be the wife of a beggar than live your lie," she said. "I choose my own life." The words struck Nathan like lightning. She would choose me, he thought, his heart racing. Even like this she would choose me. That night he met her at the bus stop, his mind still reeling. She looked tired, her shoulders slumped, but she smiled when she saw him. "Rough day?" she said simply, and he nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. They walked in silence, and when they reached her building, she turned to him. "Nathan," she said, her voice soft, "if I asked you something crazy, would you say yes?" He blinked, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "Marry me," she said. "Marry me and let me prove them wrong." Time stopped. Nathan stared at her, the world narrowing to her face, her eyes, the hope and defiance in them. "She does not know who I am," he thought, "and she still wants me." "Yes," he said, the words slipping out before he could stop it. "Yes, Clara. I will marry you." She laughed, a sound of pure relief, and pulled him into a hug. They did it quietly, a week later at a small courthouse in Queens. A friend of Clara's, a clerk named Lily, stood as witness, and a judge with tired eyes sealed their vows. Nathan signed his name, his real name, trusting the disguise would hold a little longer. Their first night as husband and wife was in Clara's apartment, the storm outside a distant rumble. Nathan showered first, washing away the day's grime, and waited on her couch, his nerves buzzing. She emerged from the bathroom, her hair loose, wearing a silky nightgown that caught the candlelight. He froze, his breath hitching. "Why are you wearing that?" he asked, his voice rough. She raised an eyebrow, a playful frown crossing her face. "What do you want me to wear?" she replied. "Pajamas? Some old robe from downstairs?" He shook his head, flustered. "No, you look—" He stumbled, and she laughed. "You are ruining the moment," she said, stepping closer. "I wanted tonight to be special, Nathan. We cannot afford a big trip, but we have this, us. Do not tell me you are shocked by a little effort." He swallowed hard, her nearness overwhelming. "I am not shocked," he said. I cannot believe you are mine." Tears pricked his eyes, and he pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. She felt them, his tears, and turned to him, her hands cupping his cheeks. "What is wrong?" she asked, her voice gentle. "Did I upset you?" He laughed through the emotion, kissing her softly. "No," he said. "You make me the happiest man alive." They spent the night wrapped in each other, the world outside fading away. Nathan held her close, her warmth seeping into him, and thought, "She loves me, a beggar in her eyes. I am not worthy of this." Every touch, every whispered word deepened his love and his guilt. He had vowed to tell her the truth once they were married, to give her the life she deserved, but now, in her arms, he faltered again. "She will hate me," he thought, staring at the ceiling as she slept beside him. "She will think I played her for a fool." The next morning they woke to sunlight streaming through the window, tangled in each other's embrace. Clara smiled at him, her eyes bright. "I am the luckiest woman," she said. "Married to you, no regrets." He forced a smile, his chest tight. "Are you sure?" he asked. "You do not mind being tied to someone like me?" She squeezed his hand. "Not even a little," she said. "I know who you are, Nathan. You are good, and that is all I need." Her trust was a knife, cutting deeper into his secret. "I have to tell her," he thought, panic rising. "But not today. Let me keep her love one more day." Unbeknownst to them, the courthouse clerk had whispered their marriage to James Evans, setting a chain of events in motion. Nathan's time as a beggar was running out, and the truth, he feared, was closer than he knew. But in that moment, with Clara beside him, he clung to the dream they had built, a fragile love born of deception, yet stronger than he could have imagined. Nathan Brooks woke each day beside Clara Evans with a growing dread he could not shake. Their secret marriage had bound them in a quiet joy, a fragile bubble of stolen mornings and whispered promises. But beneath his happiness, the weight of his lie pressed harder. "I have to tell her," he thought, watching her sleep, her face peaceful in the soft Brooklyn light. "She deserves the truth, even if it breaks us." He traced her cheek with his fingers, memorizing her, terrified that this might be the last time she looked at him with love. That peace shattered one morning when the door to Clara's apartment burst open. They jolted awake, still tangled in the sheets, as heavy footsteps stormed inside. Clara sat up, clutching the blanket. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice trembling. Nathan echoed her, his heart pounding. "Who are you?" Before he could stand, a man's voice boomed through the room. "How dare you touch my daughter, you filthy beggar!" It was James Evans, Clara's father, his face red with fury, flanked by two men in dark suits. Clara paled. "Dad, why are you here?" she asked, pulling the blanket tighter. James ignored her, his eyes fixed on Nathan. "To take you away from this trash," he said. "You had the guts to marry my daughter, thinking you could get away with it?" Clara leapt from the bed, standing between them. "Stop it," she said. "We are married, Dad. He is my husband, and we have been together as man and wife." James roared, "Enough!" He gestured to his men, who stepped forward, their hands reaching for Nathan. "No!" Clara cried, throwing herself in front of him. "I will go with you. Just do not hurt him." Nathan grabbed her arm. "Clara, no," he said, but James seized her, dragging her out before Nathan could stop him. "Wait for me," Nathan yelled as she disappeared into the hall, the door slamming shut behind her. He stumbled to his feet, panic clawing at him. "They took her," he thought. "They took my wife." He grabbed his phone from its hidden spot in his bag and called Ryan, his voice shaking. "Follow James Evans," he said. "He has Clara. Find out where they are taking her." Ryan did not argue this time. "On it," he said, and hung up. Nathan sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "I should have told her," he thought. "Now she is gone, and she still does not know who I am." James took Clara to the Evans mansion in Upper East Side, a sprawling estate of cold marble and towering windows. She cried the whole way, her pleas echoing in the car. "Dad, do not hurt Nathan," she begged. "He cannot fight you. He is just a simple man. Please let him be." James stared ahead, his jaw tight, while Diane sat beside him, her lips curled in a smug smile. "You will marry Daniel Brooks," James said finally. Clara froze. "Brooks?" she repeated, her mind racing. Nathan's last name was Brooks too, a detail she had never questioned. "I will not," she said. "My husband is Nathan Brooks. I refuse anyone else." Diane's hand lashed out, striking Clara's cheek. "Why did you marry a beggar?" she spat. Clara touched her stinging face, her voice steady. "Because he is good, unlike you." Locked in a room at the mansion, Clara paced, her tears drying into resolve. "They cannot keep me here," she thought. "I will find Nathan." But her family had other plans. Word of her marriage spread, a rumor twisted by Diane to ruin her. No wealthy suitor would touch her now, not with the stain of a beggar's wife on her name. Even Daniel Brooks, a distant cousin of Nathan's, backed out. Diane raged to her daughter. "No one wants her now," she hissed. "What are we going to do?" Clara overheard a bitter smile crossing her lips. "Good," she thought. "Let them fail. I only want him." Days later, James announced a new wedding, set for the next morning on a private beach in Long Island. Clara sat at a lavish dinner table, surrounded by her family, her spirit numb. "Who did you trick this time?" she asked, her voice flat. Diane smirked. "Nathan Brooks," she said. "The best of the Brooks CEOs, set to be chairman. He wants you, despite everything." Clara's heart skipped. "Nathan Brooks," she thought. "It cannot be my Nathan." Her father nodded, smug. "You will marry him and fix this mess," he said. Clara pushed her plate away. "And if I refuse?" she asked. James slammed his fork down. "Then your beggar dies," he said. She flinched, the threat sinking in. The wedding day dawned bright and cruel. Clara stood on a helicopter pad, her white gown fluttering as she was flown to Long Island. Guests filled the beach, a sea of wealth whispering about her scandal. She walked the red carpet, her steps heavy, her mind on Nathan, the man she loved, not this stranger she was forced to face. At the altar, a judge waited, his face familiar from their secret vows. She frowned, confused, until a voice called from behind. "Is my bride ready?" She turned, and there was Nathan, not in a suit, but in his beggar's rags, his green eyes locked on hers. The crowd gasped. James surged forward, but men in black suits, Nathan's guards, held him back. "What is this?" James shouted. "Are you here to ruin my daughter's wedding, beggar?" Clara broke free, running to Nathan, her arms around him. "Dad, stop," she cried. "I love him. I will go with him." Diane shrieked, "Get out!" But a woman stood, then, Nathan's mother, elegant and calm. "He is my son," she said. The groom marrying Clara. The Evans family reeled, stunned, as Clara pulled back, staring at Nathan. His face, cleaned of charcoal, was handsome, his teeth white, not blackened. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I am so sorry," Nathan said, his eyes pleading. "I never told you. I am Nathan Brooks, not a beggar. I wanted you to love me for me." She stepped back, her hand raised. "Do not follow me," she warned, then fled, lifting her gown as she ran from the tent. The crowd buzzed, and James snapped out of his shock. "Go after her," he ordered Nathan. "She means the opposite when she says that." Nathan nodded, sprinting down the beach, his heart in his throat. "Clara," he shouted, catching her by the shore, her tears glinting in the sun. "I am sorry. Would you end us because I lied? Can you not forgive me?" She turned, her voice trembling. "Why did you deceive me?" she asked. "I never wanted a rich man. My mother was miserable until she died, lonely because my dad chose money over her. I wanted you, the man I met." Nathan stepped closer, his hands shaking. "I am not your father," he said. "I love you, Clara. I promise a life of joy every hour, every day. Forgive me and let us start again." She looked into his eyes, searching, and saw the man she had fallen for, beggar or billionaire. The waves crashed around them, and she knew her answer was already in her heart. Nathan Brooke stood on the Long Island shore, the waves lapping at his feet, his ragged clothes soaked from the chase. Clara Evans faced him, her white gown billowing in the wind, tears streaking her face. The hurt in her eyes cut deeper than any blade, but he held her gaze, desperate to mend what he had broken. "Why did you deceive me?" she asked again, her voice raw. "I never wanted a rich man, Nathan. I wanted you, the man who waited for me, the man who shared my sandwich in the rain." He stepped closer, his heart pounding. "I am still that man," he said. "I love you, Clara. Please, forgive me." She looked away, the ocean stretching endless before her, and for a moment he feared she would turn and leave him there. "I wanted a life free of wealth's chains," she said softly. "My mother suffered because of it, and I swore I would not." But then she turned back, her eyes meeting his, and he saw something shift, a flicker of the trust they had built. "I do not need money or a big name," she said. "I need you, whoever you are. If you promise me truth from now on, I will stay." Nathan exhaled, relief flooding him. "I swear it," he said, taking her hands. "You have all of me, forever." Clara nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears, and she stepped into his arms. The crowd, gathered at the edge of the tent, erupted into cheers as they embraced, the sound mingling with the crash of the waves. Nathan held her tight, whispering, "My love, you are my world." She pulled back, her hands on his face. "And you are mine," she said. "Let us finish this wedding, not for them, but for us." They returned to the altar hand in hand, the judge smiling as he pronounced them husband and wife once more, this time under the open sky, with the truth laid bare. James Evans approached as the guests clapped, his face a mix of shame and resignation. "I was wrong," he said gruffly, extending a hand to Nathan. "I misjudged you." Diane stood behind him, silent for once, her daughters fidgeting awkwardly. Nathan shook James's hand, his voice steady. "I do not need anything but Clara," he said. "She is my only treasure." Clara squeezed his arm, her eyes bright. "And I have all I want right here," she said, leaning into him. The hotel staff, some of whom had mocked Nathan, came forward too, offering quiet apologies. Clara waved them off. "It is done," she said. "Let us move forward." The celebration stretched into the night, the beach aglow with lanterns and laughter. Nathan and Clara danced barefoot in the sand, her gown trailing behind her, his rags a strange contrast to the joy on his face. "I almost lost you," he thought, spinning her under the stars. "But you chose me, again and again." As the music slowed, he pulled her close. "I will never hide from you," he said. "You are my home." She rested her head on his chest. "And you are mine," she replied, "no matter what you wear or where we go." They left for Hawaii the next week, a honeymoon Clara had once mentioned in passing, her eyes lighting up at the thought of its beaches and sunsets. Nathan made it happen, not with grandeur, but with simplicity, just the two of them exploring the island hand in hand. They walked along the shore, her laughter ringing out as waves chased their feet, and he thought, "This is the life I promised her, full of joy, every hour, every day." When they returned to New York, Clara resigned from the Sterling Heights, her days of fighting for others there complete. 6 months later, they learned she was pregnant. Clara followed Nathan everywhere, even to his office at Brooks Industries, her presence a constant comfort. One afternoon, as he worked at his desk, she pointed to a corner. "I want a little kitchen there," she said, pouting playfully, "so I can cook for us instead of ordering takeout all the time." He laughed, pulling her close. "Are you planning to live here, my love?" he teased. She smiled, her hand on her growing belly. "I just want to be with you," she said. "You promised we would never be apart." Nathan kissed her forehead, his heart full. "I did," he said, "and I will keep that promise." They drove to Central Park that evening, a place they had once wandered when he was still a beggar in her eyes. Clara stopped near a group of homeless families, her voice rising. "I am a beggar's wife," she called out, pulling cash from her bag and handing it to them. "Did you know my husband used to be one of you?" Nathan grinned, joining her, his arm around her waist. She is proud of it, he thought, and I am proud of her. As they walked away, the sun dipping low, Clara leaned into him. "I love you, my beggar," she said, her voice soft. He tightened his hold, whispering, "I love you too, my everything." She dozed against him on the ride home, and Nathan watched her, the brave woman who had saved him with her heart. "I found her," he thought, "the one who loved me when I had nothing. Now I will give her everything, a life of peace and happiness forever." Nathan Brooks sat in the quiet of their Brooklyn apartment, the city's hum a soft backdrop beyond the windows. Clara rested against him on the couch, her head on his shoulder, her breathing steady as she slept. The glow of a single lamp painted their small space in gold, and he watched her, this woman who had changed everything. Her hand rested on her belly, where their child grew, a promise of the future they had built from the ashes of his deception. "I never thought I would find this," he thought, his fingers brushing her hair. "A love so real, so deep, it outshines every fortune I was born into." Their journey had been a storm, a clash of secrets and truths, but here they were, stronger for it. Nathan thought back to that first day by the church, when he stood in rags, searching for something he could not name. He had walked through Manhattan's crowds, sat in Central Park's silence, and waited outside the Sterling Heights, all for her. Clara had seen him, not the dirt or the disguise, but the man beneath. And she had loved him, without knowing his name, carried empires. "She saved me," he thought, "from the emptiness I carried, from the life I never wanted. I owe her everything." He remembered their wedding on the Long Island beach, the moment she forgave him, her hands in his as the waves roared their approval. She had chosen him not once but twice, first as a beggar, then as himself. That choice was a gift he would never take for granted. "I promised her a life of joy," he mused, "every hour, every day, and I will keep that vow until my last breath." Clara stirred then, her eyes fluttering open, and she smiled up at him, sleepy and warm. "You are staring," she murmured, her voice a gentle tease. He chuckled, kissing her forehead. "I cannot help it," he said. "You are too beautiful to look away from." She nestled closer, her hand finding his. "I am happy, Nathan," she said. "Beggar or billionaire, you are mine, and that is all I ever wanted." Her words wrapped around him, a balm to the guilt he once carried. "I am the luckiest man," he thought, "because she loves me, all of me, and she always will." He held her tighter, the weight of his old life gone, replaced by the lightness of their love. They had faced her family's wrath, the whispers of the world, and come through it together, a bond no one could break. Their story was not just theirs anymore. It was a testament, a truth that echoed beyond the streets of New York. Love does not need castles or diamonds, Nathan thought, his gaze drifting to the city lights. It needs two hearts beating as one, finding each other in the chaos of life. He had shed his wealth to find her, and she had given up her world to stand by him. Together, they had built something greater, a love that defied every expectation, every rule. Nathan's thoughts turned to the days ahead, to the child they would raise, to the moments they would share. "I hope our little one has her heart," he thought, "her strength, her kindness." Clara had taught him what it meant to live, not for power or prestige, but for the quiet beauty of connection. She was his beggar's wife, proud and fearless, and he was her beggar, humbled by her grace. "I will never let her go," he vowed silently. "My love, my light, my forever." He looked down at her again, her face serene in sleep, and felt peace settle over him. This was their ending, but also their beginning, a life stretching out like the horizon they had walked in Hawaii. Clara had rescued him from his own shadows, and he had given her the freedom she craved. Together they were whole. "I found her," he thought, "the one who loved me when I had nothing, and now I will give her everything, a world of happiness, built one day at a time." And so, as the night deepened, Nathan closed his eyes, joining Clara in rest, their story complete, yet endlessly alive. Their love was a quiet triumph, a whisper against the noise of the world, proving that the truest riches lie in the heart. Thank you for listening to this tale, a story of two souls who found each other against all odds. If it touched you, leave a comment below, share your thoughts, your dreams, subscribe to Emma's Stories for more journeys of love, and until next time, may your heart find its own beautiful truth.